joining me for another live case study with one of my amazing clients. I know I sound like a broken record, but I attract who I attract, go getters, who are all amazing and doing amazingness out in the world in their own individual lanes and absolutely, breaking up with the status quo, defying the status quo, and unapologetically creating the lives of their wildest dreams. And my client that I have here today with me, Rachel Leviton, is no exception to anything that I just said. Rachel, every time I say your name, I feel like, you know, I'm reading your name in lights somewhere.
I appreciate that.
It
That's the
has a
goal.
it has a thing to it. Okay. I just want you
uh,
to know that when I say your full name, that's the feeling that I get. Okay. So if you are
Wonderful.
new to me for whatever reason, I am Danielle the coach. I'm a certified life and leadership coach. I help millennial entrepreneurs break up with the status quo and unapologetically create the life of their wildest dreams. And I do that by helping them get clear on what's next for them, have the confidence to do something about it, and then um, normalize and find the balance of all of the things, especially navigating the change that they've just enacted in their world. And it can be a vicious process, but it doesn't have to be. And with my support and my accountability, we make that process a lot smoother. And we help to collapse time on doing the things that sometimes we stay stuck in when we are going it alone. And as go-getters, sometimes that's what we do best because we just wear the world on our shoulders unnecessarily. But then you have people like me that come in and just kind of help lighten that load a little bit. So today we're going to talk to Rachel. And if you saw the title of this case study, it's how Rachel she invested in coaching and how she was able to realize a 3x plus return on her investment and some. So we'll hear a little bit about her coaching journey and working with me and what coaching has meant for her, how it has shifted some things for her, and just her take on her experience thus far. So that being said, Rachel, I introduce myself. Who is Rachel Leviton?
well, who am I? I am not sure if I should look at the camera or you, so I'm going to look at you because that's more natural. But I am Rachel Leviton. I'm originally from Chicago. I live in DC now. And I guess my career has been my adult career. I went to journalism school. I did that for a little bit where I covered the Washington Nationals. I had a press pass and did that whole thing. Feels like a lifetime ago, but I did do that. I was in the press box and in the locker room, and it was pretty cool. But then, in conjunction with that, because I graduated during the financial crisis a decade or so ago, a decade plus ago, I really couldn't get any jobs in journalism. So I got a temp job. And then I ended up being what has been my over a decade now career has been in the management and administration of engineering education fellowship programs for graduate students and postdocs. So it's nothing I ever thought I would be in, but I got into it, and that's wonderful. But the one consistent thing that has been around my entire life, to which I can fund because I have this other career and job in tandem with it, is that I have been a musician and a lover of music my entire life. So I started songwriting very young, in a more formal way when I was 12 years old, and now fast forward to whatever age I am now. Uh, and I've started in the past year even, and that's part of the journey we'll get to, but I started producing the music that I've been writing and really stepping out of my comfort zone and pushing myself there. But that's really the biggest piece of who I am. I do everything I do so that I can make music.
Love it. So what was going on in your world that made you want to ultimately enlist support from me?
Well, I know this might be a similar topic for a lot of people and a lot of changes that are going on right now, but we were a year into the pandemic. I was living alone, which with no pet and no family nearby, so no one to visit with safely or anything like that. So I kind of, quite frankly, started getting a bit into my own head.
Mhm.
That was around when I had been learning to produce over the few months, produce the music a few months prior to when we started. But I had reached a point where my position at the time at my organization was reduced in the role that I was completing my work. So we'll fast forward to that later, but I was doing less than I am doing now. And so I kind of hit the point where I'm like, I need to stretch my brain muscles. I need to do something more or different. And so I contacted one of my friends who knew of Danielle. and she put us in touch, and that's how we got here. But really, I knew I needed a change, and I didn't know how to do it. So I asked a friend who knew how to potentially help, and that's how we got here.
Got it. And so what pushed you over the hump of like saying yes to working with me? Because there's tons of coaches out there.
Honestly, it was, well, I have very good intuition. It's typically right. And we had a really good vibe and easy conversation. And I mean, yeah, I'm charming and charismatic, but it doesn't mean I can carry on a easy conversation with every single human being on the planet. But with Danielle, it was, well, with you, it was super easy. I felt
Nice.
comfortable.
Nice, nice. What feelings came up for you right before and right after you said yes to the investment?
Well, as you and I both know, it did cause me severe anxiety, if only because good anxiety, though. I even wrote that on my note card. Good anxiety, not bad anxiety. But it was because I had never, and I didn't realize this until we started, but I had never actually made that big of an actual devoted investment in myself. And that was only scary because, you know, I hadn't done it before, but that's typically how you know something's probably right for you. If you feel like you need to do it, but you feel hesitant, but you need to do it, it's probably right. So just push yourself, even if it feels a bit uncomfortable.
For sure. How did you feel? So that the anxiety
That
was
was
like on the
before.
before. So what happened after? Like, what was the feeling then?
After, I was like, well, I guess we're gonna get something done, because I felt encouraged, because I'm like, hey, you did this for yourself. You know, you're in good hands, and this is what you want. So if you want to make a change, you have to take action. And so I was proud of myself for taking an action, which has been now a consistent theme throughout the past few months. Is now I'm doing a lot more of that.
Yeah, yeah. How would you say coaching with me has supported you in creating the life of your wildest dreams?
Well, it's helped me create a holistic approach to how I invest in myself. I hadn't realized for a very long time prior to even these sessions and the pandemic that I do care about people deeply. I very much value my personal relationships with most everyone that I have special bonds with. And I hadn't realized how focusing on those was actually taking away from me. I didn't spend any time really devoted to me. And I think it was because I was afraid to try. I was afraid to get out of my comfort zone. And I knew it was the right thing to do, but I don't think I was ready. I didn't have the realization yet. So when I speak of a holistic approach, to bring this full circle, is that, you know, right before, I think within the same few day period when I reached out to my friend to get us in touch, was right when I signed up for therapy for the first time in my life. No shame. Everyone should go to therapy if you can. I just suggest it. But, you know, I had reached a certain point with family members or friends where I'm like, no, I need to be able to answer their questions, and to be able to answer their questions, I need to know the answer, and I don't know it. So I have to find a team of people, much like, I know Daniel will enjoy this reference, but much like the 1990s Chicago Bulls, you need a team. You need a holistic team. You need the people who have all the pieces. So now I know, in addition to the support of my family and my friends, I have the therapist, and I have Danielle, and I have my boss and mentors at work. But it's all of those things that make what I'm doing now possible.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that and for your transparency with sharing the fact that you have enlisted a therapist on what I call your personal board of directors.
I like
Like
that.
your squad
I
is
haven't thought of
stacked
that. That's
over
good.
there.
Yeah.
Your squad is stacked for sure, and it is evident in how you're showing up in the world. But I won't give like too much away. But I do appreciate and respect the fact that you know shared. There's something that I know that often it's more common than people may think, that people have a coach and a therapist, a life coach and a
Mhm.
therapist
Mhm.
at the same time, and it's extremely healthy and it's extremely wise, just knowing the nature of the work that both parties do. One, helping you to overcome traumas of things that have happened in the past and been unresolved, that trigger you, etc., and give you the tools, the expanded toolkit to work through them when you are triggered. And then on the other hand, which is what I do, is helping you um, move forward and shift out of where you are
Mhm.
to where you really want to be, and overcoming the things, the resistance, the limited beliefs, and all of the things, right? When you
Mhm.
decide to move your
Yeah.
cheese that come up, right? Because
Yeah.
because we're a team, we
Mhm.
have a goal to achieve. So I think
Mhm.
that's awesome that you shared that. What would you say has been your biggest win since working with me?
Well, I had to think about this, I'm thinking about this, and there's so many like good moments, but I think the best one is something I already mentioned. It's that, I chose to finally invest in myself and give myself
Mhm.
the attention that I had been giving to literally everybody else except for me. And it took me a long time to realize that I was just deferring because I was afraid to see what was next, because I didn't know what would be next, and I still don't. But that's the point, like I don't know what's next. But if you keep deferring your own life to only caring for everyone else besides you, you don't realize that you're kind of missing out on the time for yourself. And that's not to say like I don't want to come off as selfish. I don't think I am, but like we kind of all need to be a little bit selfish in the regard that like we need to take care of ourselves. And if you're not doing that first and foremost, then I mean, I was achieving a lot of very wonderful things before I was doing this. And I'm doing it that much faster now, but that's not to say I wasn't doing those things in the past. It's just like now it's a more focused effort to really make moves faster. And yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. Yeah,
No,
to make
that
moves
was good.
faster.
That was good. What would you say has been your most memorable like aha or light bulb moment in our time together?
It was actually, so for those out there in the internet, I have been working with Danielle since April, I want to say. I think we started like at the dead end of March, so kind of April. Um, and we had wrapped up a 12-week session, which was fantastic. And like some life things happened, some health stuff, so I needed to take a little break. We took a little break, and then we finally came back, and it was the most recent session we had, where it was I realized that I had changed, and I didn't even realize that I had, because we were recapping interactions I've had with several different people over the past, I guess, month that we took off. Um, and I realized that I have changed. And so that changes how everything around me is now responding to me and how I respond to it. It's
Mhm.
not a negative change. It's not necessarily a positive. It's just like, it's a change. And so the person who maybe was inside me before all the life stuff happened, like your child version of yourself before the world like starts affecting what you do, that person is now here, but in like the adult form, moving past all the, for lack of a better word, junk in the middle. Like that's not to say that my life was bad or anything in any way, but it's just like I realized that I have changed, and I even noticed it in things that we haven't even talked about yet that we'll probably talk about next session. But like I'm I'm doing things that I finally broke the cycle with a lot of things that I didn't even realize until very recently that I had these patterns. It helped with the therapy too, but it also helped with Danielle because I have different perspectives to let these things out. And that goes back to a holistic team. I strongly recommend it. But yeah, I mean, the change is hard. I used to be very afraid of change. My parents used to say, I know you hate change, but now I realize that if you don't change, you stay stagnant. So everything needs to evolve naturally, and it might be hard and it might be scary. But I will tell you, when I journaled quite a bit yesterday at various times throughout the day, for various reasons, but they were all interconnected, that I did something that I was terrified to do. I did it, and it turned out the way I wanted it to. And that is great. So, yeah, I mean, I forgot the original question, but I think I answered it.
Yeah, you did. You did. You did. You're good. But you said two things, and I hope I remember both of them. Let me get to them while they're fresh, right? One thing that you mentioned, but you didn't explicitly call it out, but the fact that like you renewed working with me, right? And so like
Yes, right.
this equipping yourself with the right support and accountability is now part of your lifestyle.
Yes.
It's not a, oh, you know, let me just dip my toe in the pool type of thing. Like you recognize the value in not going it alone. And not to say that you are alone, like literally or physically, you have your, circle, but it's a different flex when you have professional support,
Hmm.
right? On your
Absolutely.
journey. Especially for my millennial entrepreneurs that are working to transition out of the 9 to 5, or as career professionals into doing this thing, independent and full time and creating their exit strategy. For most people that we are connected to by blood or chosen friendship, that's not normal. So to have professional support that encourages you, um, that will let you have the breakdowns and help you get back up, right? And go after it again, it's a game changer. And so I applaud you for recognizing, the value, of stacking your team with the right support, and staying like in tune to like what's working for you. So that's
Hmm.
super commendable. I couldn't let us like gloss over that. And there's something else that you said about realizing that you're not the same person
I'm
that you
definitely not.
were. Listen,
But
listen. Let me
you had to tell me that though, because I did not
let me
notice.
pop my invisible collar real quick because listen, I don't care who I'm talking to.
Oh,
When I
yeah.
talk about my clients that I've worked with, maybe working with now, or my future clients who I don't even know their name,
Hmm.
right? But I know that there are people out here that are divinely assigned to me to work with and support and coach in this capacity. I say all the time, and I say this, not even humbly because I mean it with my whole being. There's 3 things that people can do after I'm finished working with my clients. So while my clients are getting that S back on their chest, you can get out of the way, you can get on board, or you can get bulldozed over. You got 3 options because my clients are going places, and it's the unapologetically for me
Mm.
because they want to, because they owe it to themselves. And you said something earlier about you used the S word, which I was so happy to hear. Being selfish, right? The people that I attract typically go getters, but have servant hearts, and sometimes to their detriment, right? And this is not Rachel specific. This is holistically speaking, just I attract who I attract. People have my clients have amazing hearts. They're givers by nature. And it's a strange flex for them to really choose them for a spell, for a season, and allow themselves to grow and be poured into, to be nurtured and supported, to be cheered on, to give them the same thing that they give everybody else effortlessly.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you pointed those things out, but I wanted to shine a light on them because those are major, and they really are game changers in this work that we end up doing together. So Rachel, what would you say is the most memorable like takeaway? So it's just a little bit different from like the aha moment, but your
Mm.
most memorable takeaway so far from our time together.
Most memorable takeaway. That's a toughie. I'm combing through the memories in my brain, trying to give you a very good answer on the fly. Um, but you know what? I think just choosing to, as you say, unapologetically invest in myself, even though it was terrifying to do at the start. I think there isn't any one thing necessarily that I can pinpoint. It's just like I had, for example, I had been paging through the notebook that I had started with our first session, and I was looking at some of these things I wrote, and I'm like thinking now, like, how didn't I realize any of those things earlier? Why didn't I do them sooner? Because I literally wasn't giving myself the time that I deserved. And I don't know why. I think it was, goes back to perhaps a self-confidence thing when it's like when you think you're confident, but you're somehow not exhibiting it and you don't know why, kind of
Mm.
like a dog with its tail between its legs. It's just strange. But when you start to put in the work, so I guess like the takeaway here is that actually doing the work was the biggest, most important part. I think, I forget the exact phrasing you used for the question, but
Sure.
actually doing the work and then being able to, the most important part is not even just doing the work, it's reflecting on the work so that you can see what happened, what transpired, maybe why. You can find, I mean, this goes back to my day job, but like, so, you know, you analyze the data
Yeah.
and you see what themes you find and what stands out and what, you know, what you wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't jotted it down or done a certain exercise.
Yeah.
Just like I think the reflection is the biggest. Well, I mean, all of it's important, but without the reflection portion,
Mhm.
there's nothing for you there. Like, you need to look back on what you've done. So, like, for example, there's no shame in anyone who has, you know, taken a course with you and then not continued. I'm sure they've gotten a lot out of it. It's just like some people, you know, they're ready to go do something else or try something different or whatever it is. But I think for me, being able to now move on to the next step and utilize my reflection to do the next chapter of work
Yep.
is, again, I forget the question you asked, but I know it answers it. So yes.
You did. So we talked a little bit about your wins, right? Um, and then you just mentioned like the word data. And
Mm.
so thinking about, like, we talked about the investment and how, you know, on the front end, like there was like this anxiety and like the emotional wave that you rode to kind of dive deep and bet on yourself, right? And do something for you selfishly, right? But then let's talk about this return on your investment.
Thank you for the
There's
reminder.
there's like intrinsic, intangible returns, but then there have been some tangible returns.
And Danielle
that
knows I forget my wins, so she needs to remind me so that I remember to talk about them. So thank you. Yes.
Yes. So you want to share about that?
Yes. So as we discussed at the beginning of this conversation during the introduction, one of the reasons why I started this was because I felt a bit stagnant. Not that I was doing a poor job, I was doing an excellent job. They're just the role that I was in was a more reduced role than I had been doing for all the years prior, just because of the nature of contract work. That's just how things go sometimes. But I mean, still grateful for a job, and I liked the job that I was doing. It was less responsibility, but doing things that I enjoyed doing. But I did, you know, to be completely transparent and no shame in it, I took a gigantic pay cut, but I didn't really care at the time because I'm like, well, I need to stay employed. That's important. So I finally reached a point where I was like, well, no, you know, I'm doing that. Everything's great. But if there's no other opportunities there and I took this pay cut, like, I need to get back to what I was making. And so somehow the universe like knew that and gave me an opportunity. And now I'm almost all the way back at what I had been previously making in a similar role. But now I'm working on both of those things at the same time. And let me tell you, when I'm definitely exhausted right now. I know I don't maybe seem it, but I am exhausted, but it's worth it because, you know, I have to work with my boss most every day. It's a new boss and it's the first female boss I've ever had. And she's a bit more mature within me in age. And so, like, she's seen people and wants to mentor people. And I've never had that before. And so we work very closely. And something I'm not used to also is getting very consistent praise for hard work. I've had great bosses. I've had some challenging bosses, but like no one had ever been as consistent in supporting me through and reminding me that, yes, I know you're tired, but like you're doing a good job. And so there is still an opportunity, so that helped me get the 3 times almost of my or plus of my investment. But there's also opportunities as part of this job for me to even increase that over the next few months. And so, I just have to keep working hard and doing what I do. And it's not that I plan, I can be in that role for the next few years, and I don't really intend to leave the project before it ends. Like, it's mine now. Like, I want to see it through, but that doesn't mean that the work that we're doing to do what I am meant to do on this earth is going to stop. It's just like, I mean, I know I'm no spring chicken. I'm not like 16 anymore, but like, I'm not super duper old, and that's not really relevant anyway. It's like, there's still time. I haven't run out of time. So, I'm making plans. I'm figuring out what I actually want to do as opposed to dreaming and daydreaming about it. I'm writing down and making plans. And when the time comes, at least I know, if something were to happen tomorrow and for whatever reason the jobs went away, which it's not going to happen. But if it did, like, at least like I have plans now, and I can try to figure something out. I mean, I'll have more plans, you know, in the near future to help facilitate that. But you know, I did get promoted during this that I didn't know I was going to get promoted. You know, I started producing before I met Danielle, but now I have my next song. Well, my third song that I produced, 2 of them have come out while I've been working with, well, one has come out in April while working with Danielle, and the next one will come out on Friday. So, you know, it's just like it's helped me. One of my goals was to, you know, stay on track with that while simultaneously doing everything else, because that's why I'm on this earth, is to do that. Everything else is great, and I'm glad I can do it, but that was what I was born to do, so I'm doing it. But just know, so like if you're considering this situation and you're like, well, I'm not ready to give up XYZ, you don't have to give something up. You know, it's not about giving something up. It's about, you know, doing more of what you want to do.
I love it. I'm so excited for all of you. Well, first of all, the new single that's dropping on Friday. I love the one that dropped back in April.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm definitely a fan, so you got to tell us in a few minutes about that one and where to find it.
Gladly.
But before we get to that, what excites you about what's next for you?
Well, I remember we had this conversation back, I think it was June 3rd, because I went to my first concert back in the wild right after that conversation. And now, why am I losing my train of thought? Wait, remind me the question real quick. This doesn't happen much anymore, but.
Sure. What excites you about what's next for you?
What excites me? Gosh, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Well, I mean, really, that I am breaking cycles is the best thing for me, because I have been in consistent patterns since middle school in a wide range of things. And I'm noticing those patterns and seeing how they weren't necessarily detrimental, but they were holding me back. And I don't want those things to hold me back anymore, but it's scary to try to change stuff. But I'm willing to try now, because I see, because it goes back to, I remembered, I mean, not to brag, but to brag, I always win. Let
them know.
Danielle pointed that out to me, because I was using some different language before. I used to say that was the day, June 3rd. I used to say I never lose, but Danielle was like, no. You always win. And I mean, I felt weird saying it, and I still a little bit, but I mean, I do. And some things might change along the way, and some things hurt more than others, but everything that's meant to happen happens for me. And I know that just the universe is looking out for all of us. So it's not just me, it's all of you, all of us. Just got to look for it, I guess.
For sure. What advice would you give someone who is thinking about working with me, but they're on the fence?
Trust your gut. You wouldn't have sought her out in the first place if you didn't think you wanted it or needed it. I mean, want and need can be very different, but you wouldn't have looked into this if you didn't think it was something that you felt like it made sense for you. If you're hesitant, I totally get that. I mean, I was hesitant, if only because I've never made that big of an investment in myself in my entire life. But I mean, I've stuck with it, obviously, because it's important for me and it's working for me, because again, it goes back to having that holistic team, which I realized one of the things I learned was that, I mean, I love my friends and I love my family, but the things that I was unnecessarily burdening them with and kind of disrespecting boundaries between those relationships unknowingly are things that I should have been doing with someone like Danielle. Like, these are like what you said earlier. It's some of these things that we need support in. That's not what our core people are for. Our core people are there for different reasons. And in order to keep those relationships healthy, I think it's the healthiest thing for everyone involved to seek out support. So if you are on the fence, I get that. I was too, because I had never done it before. But if you sought her out in the first place, there was a reason. So trust your gut and do it's a good anxiety, right? So I know anxiety is real, but you did it for a reason. So just follow through.
I love it. Where can anyone who wants to follow or join the Rachel Leviton fan club follow you, hear your amazing work, all of the things? Let us know.
Well, the best place that I stay social more often than not is Instagram. It's at RH Leviton, spelled here on the screen. That's like where you can keep up with what's the latest, what's happening, fun things I'm doing, concerts I'm going to, what's being released. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. I don't really tweet much, but that's fine. But you can hear the music on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. You can stream it there for free, and I still get royalties. That's fine. But yeah, I would say those are the. I mean, I have a website, but if you go to Instagram, like there's a. I don't know how many of you are out there are familiar with Linktree, but it's basically one link where kind of all the greatest hits of what's ever happening lately are all stacked there for you to read. So like a feature interview that I just had that came out, which is a win, you know, nice feature article giving you the whole story. If you want to know more, click the Linktree on my Instagram and you can get the full story as to why working with Danielle makes so much sense. But yeah, those are the best places to do it right now. And then on your preferred music streaming platform, that will work. Just look up this name. I don't have a stage name. This is my stage name because it is my name.
And sooner than later, it's going to be in lights. Mark my word. It's here on the record. I'm going to come back to this video and run this back when it happens. You heard it here first.
Yes, you did.
Rachel, thank you so much for your time, your candor, your transparency, your vulnerability. I knew this would be amazing, and we just had to get up here and do it, right?
Super fun.
It is my pleasure to serve you and work with you and support you, and I'm looking forward to what's next, especially this new single dropping on Friday. For anybody who's watching who's interested in working with me, go to daniellethecoach.com/apply, complete the questionnaire. And if it looks like that you might be a good fit to work with me, we will have a conversation, a strategy session to see what next might look like for you and how I might be able to support you in doing that. Again, that's daniellethecoach.com/apply. And with that, we will wrap. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rachel.
See you soon. Have a good day, everyone.